Hi, I'm Gino Perrotte, and I'm on the Keynote speaking circuit this semester once again. Last year, I spoke about sustainable teaching and learning, rethinking the relationship between rigor and rest. And this year, I'm expanding that, and I'm talking about conscious teaching. How do we transform the learning experience with slow education? So in this newsletter article that I'm sharing on LinkedIn, I'm going to just talk about a couple definitions and the overall framework for this year's keynote speech. So I like to start with definitions because as a communication expert, I know that that really is the foundation of proper communication, effective communication, ensuring that everybody has the same definitions and that we're starting from a common ground. So in this keynote, I defined several key terms, and in this newsletter, I am defining two specific terms. I'm going to be talking about intentionality, and I'm going to be talking about transformative learning. And in that, I'll introduce a key theory called transformative educational leadership, which basically talks about that change on the systemic wide level and the professional level. So big scale change actually starts with inside change, personal change at a level that's much more scalable for us. And then the rest of the keynote, I have sectioned into two areas, inward focused, our inner environment, our inner world, and then the exterior environment, outward focus. And in this interior environment, what I talk about are key ways that we can get our interior self prepared through greater mindfulness and greater heartfulness. So mindfulness is updating our beliefs, being aware of our unconscious bias, being aware and conscious about the thoughts that enter into our head. Heartfulness is about manifesting the right emotional energy to bring into our spaces. And in the newsletter, I talk about a variety of methods, but here I'm just going to present three very brief ways that I go in much more in depth in the keynote speech for how we can help cultivate helpful internal emotional energy. The first one is simply an exercise of savoring. Savoring is a technique that I've learned from Dr. Amy Aba from the Greater Good Science Center out of University of California, Berkeley. She's written a book about teacher burnout, and this is one of the techniques that she shares. It's one of my favorite. Savoring is simply bringing conscious awareness to the sensory experiences that we're having in that moment. So being aware and appreciating, letting it move from a body level of the sensing into a conscious, mindful awareness of what we're experiencing, and then allowing the heart to get involved in as well, so that we can feel that experience and the gratitude from that experience. So on my way into work as a teacher, when I am commuting from the subway and walking to my campus, I leave myself enough time in the morning, which is something I like as a New Yorker because a lot of people are just rushing from here to there and they don't even seem to be aware of what's happening around them. And I like just to take everything in, walk at a pace where I can notice what people wear. They dress very nicely in New York. The flowers that are growing, or this time of the year, it's autumn, the color of the leaves as they change. To notice the smells of the coffee and the street vendors of the morning goods that they're selling. That's an example of savoring and allows us to get more grounded in our body and be in the present moment, essentially. And it helps me get ready emotionally inside at a more calm and grateful energy level, so that when I step into my classroom in the morning, I am energetically in a space to be more effective. So I've used savoring as a tool to transform my energy from tired and stressed during my commute to a level that is going to be much more beneficial for the classroom, happy and energetic. That's one technique. The second technique that I like to do is simply to read. Like many New Yorkers, I commute via the subway, so I like to center myself emotionally, which means keep myself in an emotional space that feels good. The subway is a space that presents all of its own energy. You know, you have so many different people at a different emotional energy level coming into that subway in the morning, and we influence one another with those emotions just by being in the same space. So by reading, it allows me to block some of those inputs and really bring my conscious attention to the words and focus on the story that I'm involved in. It allows me to keep my energy mine and to be less influenced by the energy of the people around me during my commute. And then the third technique is something that, if you've been following me here on LinkedIn, I've been talking about for several years now, and that's sabbaticals. And in fact, my September newsletter chronicled my 10-week sabbatical that I did this summer, traveling throughout Europe. And I'm already looking forward to January sabbatical, and definitely one, again, a long and extended one this coming summer. But sabbaticals really provide a physical space for us to relax, to recharge, to start getting more in touch with ourselves at that sensory level. Provides an extended period of time for us to be able to savor, read, rest, sleep, all that good stuff. So by the time you're done with the sabbatical, you can return to your learning spaces literally transformed in mind, body, and therefore emotions, that you're feeling good, buzzing at an energetic, emotional level that will help you to be the most effective teacher. Why? Because when we step into our classrooms, we are, what I like to say, the emotional tuning forks for that class. Whatever we are vibrating at, whatever energy, whatever emotion is our dominant emotion that morning, that day, for that class, is likely to become the emotion that the students vibrate at. Why? Because we know from the psychological concept of emotional contagion, we know that we influence one another. We can infect one another with our emotions. And as the teacher, we're standing up while the students are usually seated. So that puts us in a more visible, dominant, physically dominant position. So our energy is also more dominant, therefore. Our eye contact as well often is the only common eye contact in the room, meaning the students are all looking at us. They're looking at to us as the teacher. They're syncing to us in our eye contact. So eye contact is a way to spread that emotion, spread that energy. And then the final thing is, of course, all the talking that we do as educators. And the sound of our voice is like an instrument. It is literally vibrations, putting sound out into the air, sound waves. So we encode emotion in the sound of our words. However we say them has an emotional tone, which then gets interpreted by the listeners or the students. So as the teacher, it's essential that we're vibrating at this good emotional level, because our energy literally transforms the energy of the room, and the students are more likely to walk out feeling whatever it is that we're broadcasting at the end of the class. What is it that you want to broadcast? You want to broadcast whatever emotion will be helpful for that lesson, helpful and appropriate for the students to feel, to help them really learn, digest, be empowered by the information that you're presenting. So please enjoy this article. And if this keynote sounds interesting to you, again, the title is Conscious Teaching, Transforming Learning from the Inside Out Through Slow Education. Please reach out to me. It's a 75-minute keynote. And then we also have the option of adding a 75-minute workshop onto that as well. So we can learn about the theory and then directly implement the practice of it as well. Okay, enjoy. Happy learning and happy teaching.